The PSVR 2 came out a few weeks ago, and now I can officially say,
boys, we're eating ramen tonight!
This virtual reality headset has some new features that many other competitors don't for the price. But if you're thinking about buying one, after watching this video, you'll be able to determine if the PSVR is right for you. One thing to note is that I paid for this device out of my own pocket. It was not sent to me. So take in that I'm talking about a device with the expectation that it should be worth the $600 I paid for it. It costs more than the PS5 itself. After meticulously testing this out myself and having other VR noobs and veterans play it, I've come to some surprising revelations. I got the PSVR 2 bundle with Horizon Call of the Mountain. This game is essentially a tech demo for the system, and will use features of this device that make it stand out. When unboxing the headset, everything is wrapped in plastic and well packed. The initial setup was pretty straightforward too. The headset instantly shows off some unique features as soon as you put it on. After the first setup, it was pretty straightforward. There's a pass-through button which allows you to see your surroundings with the headset on. And there's a way to control many features of the device on the lower menu after clicking the PS button. You can adjust things like the volume, brightness, and even recalibrate the vision settings and eye tracking. This is also really helpful for setting up a new play area, and it's actually pretty easy. You just sort of look around and it scans your surroundings and automatically creates your play area. You can also switch this to stationary or sitting if that's how you intend to play. Speaking of the new play area, that's definitely something you'll want a lot of, as I was in constant fear of me or someone else completely obliterating my TV in one shot, but thankfully I have just enough space here. Although it's recommended you should have at least 1 meter by 1 meter around you. Let's talk about the hardware though. First, the controllers. Finally, Sony has given us proper PSVR controllers. No more those dinky wand things that have limited tracking and input, and these ones don't require an external camera to use. Introducing the Sense controllers. These controllers are very lightweight and pretty comfortable after getting used to them after a while. At first, I found they would constantly slip from my hands and I would have to re-grip them. I think it's due to the way the tracking rings are positioned. The controller isn't well balanced because of this, and it feels like it wants to twist out of my hand as I move around. But again, after getting used to it, it grips nicely in my sweet baby hands. Now, the buttons themselves take a while to get used to. It's not like the traditional DualSense controllers. The cross and circle buttons are on the right controller and the square and triangle are on the left, which is somewhat weird because I always think of all 4 buttons on the right controller. I feel like the circle button should be where the square is, I guess. The sticks are just like the DualSense controllers, which is fine with me. I didn't find it uncomfortable in any way. The controllers also have the classic options and share buttons, which is great if you want to record or stream from the system. And there's also included wrist straps so you don't accidentally let go. Again. We also get the fan favorite adaptive triggers on the R2 and L2 buttons. This is identical to the DualSense triggers, where pressing them down can have some sort of weight to simulate a better trigger experience. Something else that's cool is that the controllers have a capacitive sensor, which can sense your fingers just by the touch, without even having to press them in. But the biggest thing that may not strike your fancy is the battery life, with an average of only 4 hours on each Sense controller. This is okay because hopefully you'll be taking a break within 4 hours of playing, but if you don't, then you're forced to. This is most likely because the battery drains very fast with all the haptics. But seriously, I don't even remember the last time I put some new batteries in my Quest 2 controllers. You can easily charge the Sense controllers by coughing up some more money and getting the charging dock. But I don't think you need that, as 2 USB-C cables will work just fine. Unless you like how the stand looks, or you really don't want to deal with plugging in the controllers each time. Mom, I'm sorry. So I actually did end up getting these Sense controller stands. I found that after playing this for a while, having these is so much easier than plugging it into the actual console. You just put them in. When I wrote the part of the video where I said you probably don't need the Sense controller charging station, boy was I wrong, because having this charging station is so much more helpful than having to plug in your controllers every single time. This way, your controllers have somewhere to sit when you're not using them, and better yet, they can charge at the same time using one cable. And you don't even need to use a USB-C cable either. You plug it in using the power supply that it comes with, and just plug it into an AC outlet. You might prefer that, or you might not prefer that, but you know what? Having a controller station, I actually recommend it. For only $50 more, you pretty much just put these USB-C charging connectors in, and then it's kind of like MagSafe. You put it on, and then it charges. Do you need it? No, you definitely don't need it, but will you want the Sense charging station after the first few times you play this? Heck yeah, because I assure you plugging it in every time, it's just gonna get painful. The charging station's actually good, and I recommend it. It's useful. But now let's move on to the actual headset. This thing looks great, feels lightweight, and is actually comfortable on my steamy scalp. There's some very cozy plush padding on the halo straps that feel very squishy, but firm enough to keep everything tightly on your face. There's also many ways to adjust. There's a back band which you can extend and then tighten by twisting the knob. And there's a switch on the front of the headset that lets you adjust the distance between your eyes and the display. This is good for glasses wearers such as myself. Obviously, if you do wear glasses, it's not the most comfortable experience, as it's hard to get my glasses to not push down on my ears or against my face. But generally, you can find a comfortable placement after a while of fidgeting. But I do recommend contacts if that's an option, or just get better eyes. You can also change the IPD. This is for changing the distance between one eye to the other. We also get this thin silicone light guard, so there's very little light coming in through the bottom. I've heard people say this feels weird or cheap, but I think it's fantastic. As mentioned before, there's a power and pass-through button on the bottom as well. And let's not forget about the included earbuds that come with the headset. These earbuds attach to the back of the headset and can be placed in your ears with ease. And to be honest, they actually sound pretty good for such a small earpiece. If you want, the official PlayStation Pulse 3D headphones work great as well. And trust me, if you want a fully immersive VR experience, then you'll want to be using some quality headphones. But if you don't want to use headphones, or there's other people in the room watching you play on the TV, then you can just use the audio from the TV. Now that we've looked at the outside of the VR2, let's take a peek inside this champion. One of the biggest improvements with the device is the phenomenal OLED screens. This makes the games have pure blacks and even more vibrant colors. This really feels insane when you're looking around in colorful areas, and when you're in space. It truly feels like you're in a dark abyss. And the true blacks are complemented by the lack of light coming in from the bottom of the headset. As mentioned before, there's very little external light leading through. The resolution is also great at 2000 by 2040 per eye, being 4K. But remember, just because it's 4K doesn't mean it's pixelless, as you can still see some pixels if you really focus on it. Just think about how close your eyes actually are to the screen. The panel refresh rate is 90 Hz and up to 120 Hz, which gives us great buttery smooth gameplay, as is complemented by the OLED screen. Any lower than 90 Hz tends to give people motion sickness, and it's just hard to get fully immersed. But another feature that really helps with the immersion is the field of view being 110 degrees, which is quite simply amazing compared to what I'm used to at around 90 degrees on the Quest 2. While on the topic of the screen, it can be used for other games that aren't VR. For example, I played Crash Bandicoot 4 on the virtual big screen, which you might prefer to your current TV if it's not as good. But personally, looking at the regular TV is much more comfortable in my opinion. The PSVR 2 has some great tracking, the 6-axis motion sensing system, and the IR proximity sensors, complemented with the 4 cameras, which helps the controller and headset tracking. There's also IR eye tracking, which, as the name suggests, track your eyes. The eye tracking feature is a super unique one, which I've never experienced before this, but this isn't really used all too much in-game. The few times it is used is generally something simple, like going through menus. But the main reason for eye tracking is actually to help performance. This is because the headset uses Phobiated Rendering, where it downscales the resolution in your peripheral vision to save on resources, but keeps what you're looking at nice and crisp. This is impossible to notice while wearing the headset, but it can be mildly detected by looking on the TV. This is a great use of the eye tracking feature and makes it feel less gimmicky. But now one of the most important parts about this device are of course the games. Yeah, it seems like one of the biggest drawbacks to this headset is the lack of games. But you might be thinking, how is that possible? This is the second iteration of VR on the PlayStation. Can't you just play PSVR 1 games? Well, unfortunately, no. Pretty much every PSVR 1 game is not compatible with the PSVR 2, meaning the whole game catalog has to be refilled. The current game selection isn't bad by any means, it just lacks the amount of games like we see on the MetaQuest store and especially the Steam store. And you can't even use this headset attached to a PC either. As of now, you can only use it on your PS5. Hopefully that will change one day, as Sony has been getting a little more friendly with the PC gamers by putting their first-party PlayStation exclusive games on Steam, but one can only hope. Thankfully, there's a handful of demos we can try out, but it's just not the same. And the thing about getting most of these games is that there's nothing really special about getting them on this platform. Most of them are ports and are already available on other VR headsets. And very few of them have actual PSVR 2 specific features that use things like the haptic feedback on the headset and triggers. As mentioned, Horizon Call of the Mountain is the game that shows the system's capabilities off the best, but I'm having a really difficult time playing it due to the constant motion and my silly motion sickness. So if you have motion sickness in VR like me, this won't help. But it is possible to get over it, and I'm working hard so I can enjoy games like this without completely ruining myself. I generally play VR games like Beat Saber or fitness XR, or really anything that doesn't require you to move in game. So I wish PlayStation also made a game that would show off all the features without making me want to perish. Another quick thing for PlayStation Plus subscribers, there's nothing here for you, except for some deals. As of now, there's no VR games that are free with the PlayStation Plus subscription, and chances are there won't be in the future. But is this worth the price? Should you lay down this much money for a VR headset? Well, do you already have a VR headset? If so, then probably not, especially if you have a PC and a high-end VR headset already. I think the PSVR 2 is catered for those who want a deluxe VR experience and happen to have a PS5 as well. But if you've never tried VR and you're considering this headset, I would first research the MetaQuest 2, as it is a far cheaper option with potentially more to do on it. The MetaQuest 2 can play more games, can be attached to a PC for a better experience, can be easily modded, has standalone play so you don't need another device, can be played most places like the living room or even outside under the right conditions, and once again, is far cheaper. There are many things it doesn't have, like the display features and some haptic features, but if you've never experienced that before, then you don't really know what you're missing out on. They aren't integral to a good VR experience, but I hope to cover that more in depth in a future video, so please subscribe. Overall for me, it probably wasn't worth it. The last thing I wanted to do after paying $600 was pay more money for games. Some I already owned on my other VR headset. So yeah, let me know if you think it's worth it. I'm also assuming you have a PS5 if you're watching this, so click this video if you want to see if casual gamers should buy the DualSense Edge. And subscribe if you like this one. See you later.